Okay, good afternoon. Now it's better. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining online. Thank you for our audience that is following the broadcast and to our audience in the room. Today we have an important session because that's indeed the topic we are discussing. It's originated by an important initiative from the European Commission. That's the Living-in.EU platform, network, or Living-in.EU movement, as we like to call it. This session will be around that topic, but the topic is huge because the movement is about regions, cities, other stakeholders to work together for the better and the strengthening of the digital, I would say the European digital sovereignty, our European way of doing digital. That's in cooperation, that's stronger together, as we like to say, that's indeed having standards that work all over Europe, achieving interoperability and making it possible for instance, simple things like making joint procurement between several cities using the same approach, the same objectives, solving together, joint solving common challenges. The same applies to the region. I hope it will apply more and more. My region, the region I do represent, this region is one of the first signatories of, as a region, of Living-in.EU. We are very proud of it. So we try to get more regions to be together in the network. So that's why we are so honored and pleased and thankful to Eddie Hartog, the head of unit and the mentor of all this movement, to have been kind enough to bring this organization here, to be here in person. We are very glad that you could make it. You are the most welcome. Thank you for coming to our region. Thank you for coming to our event. Thank you for spending time observing a little bit the way we work in our projects, namely Aurora. There are a few other ones around, but the Aurora is really a big one. So let's start with the actual presentation. We are with the actual session. We are going to have an opening from Vice President Carmen Carvalheira. Perhaps I'm repeating myself, but that's something I have to keep saying. We do work together every day. I do very much appreciate your braveness, your courage, your determination. You are changing the face of the region, and this is not easy. And when it is done from the political side, it requires really a lot of commitment and indeed all this day-to-day courage you are showing in your decisions, in your interventions, and the loyalty towards your partners and co-workers. And that's why I'm so glad of having you opening this event. And also with a word for our president that today is taking care of the financial support to the region. He couldn't make it to come, but he was very, very keen on opening the event. He was here Tuesday with Mrs. the Commissioner Ferreira, our Minister of Territorial Cooperation, our Secretary of State of Regional Development, sorry. It's not exactly the same, but that's part of it. And also our Secretary of State of Internationalization, which is a person that's also very much committed, a friend of the region, and of course playing a very, very important role in all our strategy as a country. We have always been a strong nationality, but a very open and universal culture. So being Secretary of State of Internationalization is an important feature, an important matter in the government. We were very, very happy of having him in person Tuesday, and we could discuss. He expressed support that's needed and commitment to use the structures of his ministry to keep supporting cooperation within Europe. He's also an European person. He was part of the team for the Portuguese presidency, so he knows all the story. So just to say that all this movement has support from the Portuguese authorities and of course has support from the region, but that's not up to me when I'm here. In Brussels is a little bit of my role, but here is not. So it's not up to me to speak on behalf of the region, it's up to our Vice President. So Carmen, please help us with your words.
Thank you, Marcos. Thank you so much. I really hope I can do, as you say, to make the difference for Alentejo. I will talk a little bit in English, a little bit in Portuguese, as I think it's important to do that. A first word to say, you are so welcome to Alentejo. Thank you so much for being here in person. It's really important for us that you are here and that we can work in this project and we can make happen this summit. It's important to share on our knowledge and to do the work that is so important for Alentejo, but also for our country and also for Europe, because we are connecting each other to work together in the development of our region. Eu vou também fazer algumas palavras em português, cumprimentando também todos aqueles que nos acompanham e todos aqueles que muitas das vezes dizem que preferem falar em português. Vou fazê-lo de forma lenta para que seja fácil haver tradução, principalmente para quem nos acompanha em casa. Mas também fazer aqui o sublinhado da importância que tem esta cimeira para nós e em particular o tema da plataforma Living-in.EU e a questão da digitalização. A digitalização é transversal. Tudo aquilo onde trabalhamos, se for acompanhado de digitalização e se tivermos todos a capacidade de conseguir que ninguém seja info-excluído, que ninguém tenha qualquer tipo de dificuldade em trabalhar e em enfrentar novas tecnologias, por mais estranhas que lhes pareçam, estaremos com toda a certeza a dar um enorme contributo de forma transversal em todas as áreas de intervenção e de governação da região. E quando digo isso garantindo que estamos a capacitar desde as idades mais baixas, desde as crianças até aos mais idosos. Ainda não acabamos de ultrapassar a questão da pandemia. O Covid trouxe muitas coisas más e lamentamos muito que ainda nem sequer a tenhamos conseguido ultrapassar, mas a verdade é que nos obrigou a sermos melhores na capacidade de resiliência que temos para nos adaptarmos aos constrangimentos. Hoje, a maior parte da população consegue trabalhar com um telemóvel, com um computador. E aqueles que não conseguem têm noção de quanto é importante fazerem-no e estão muito mais disponíveis para aprenderem. Por isso, aquilo que vamos trazer com este projeto deve também conseguir que a gente seja capaz de capacitar todos, independentemente da sua idade, das suas restrições, quer sejam financeiras, quer sejam dos locais onde vivem, por mais distantes que estejam, temos que chegar a todos e garantir que todos terão igual capacidade de aprenderem e de se adaptarem a novas tecnologias. Finishing and trying to say again the same a little bit, we are strongly committed that everybody, independing their age and their financial condition or the place where they live, we really want that everybody is taking easy to work with new technologies. So we are really working on that. And I think this platform can also contribute for this work that we have. I hope in the next years we can do a giant step in this area. So you can count with Alentejo, you can count with our regional government to work together. I think we are doing a good way to this objective, and let's work and let's start our section. Thank you so much.
We are keeping on the level of government and political authority, but moving to the European side or the European level. I don't like this word level, so I've tried to find something better, but indeed to Europe as a whole. So we have with us on video with a speech formulated to this session, especially to support Living-in.EU network from our commissioner Thierry Breton, the commissioner that takes care, among other things, the internal market. But Europe is not only about the internal market, and if we think about the internal market paradigm, so the one where we are free to work together, it also should and have to apply to the regions. We should be free to work together, we should be free to invest together, we should be free to create together. But first we should be capable of doing it on the digital side. That's why Living-in.EU. And that's why we are very, very happy and honored of having with us speaking the Commissioner Thierry Breton to open our session. After it, I will hand over moderation to Eddie Hartog, and the session is yours, so please invite our speakers. To the end of the session, we have a speech from our Secretary of State of Regional Development, and then after that we will organize a small debate or however you want to do. So, can we have Mr. the Commissioner?
To accelerate our collective EU actions on many fronts. On digital first, on green second, and on residence first. For the protection of our citizens against hybrid threats, such as cybersecurity, online fake news, or hate speech. You know it, we said it, the rules in the digital world must be the same as those in the physical world. And we must defend our European values whenever and wherever they are spread. We adopted the Digital Market Act and the Digital Services Act to do exactly that. We are the first continent to ensure that the fundamental rights of citizens are protected when using digital services. But together with regional and local authorities, we are doing much more than that. The Living-in.EU Declaration is a great example of how the EU is leading the way on digital globally. Even the UN General Assembly mentions this approach as an example for others to follow. As such, I'm delighted that 7 Portuguese cities and the region of Alentejo are so committed to it. With our newest signatories, Krakow, the region of Valencia, and Dublin, the movement is growing stronger. We have many other examples of digital initiatives improving your decision-making and facilitating the lives of our fellow citizens. The digital twin concept improves operational decisions like mobility, mass management, or infrastructure. And Destination Earth will be a great tool to model climate impacts and the implication on city planning. Of course, the EU funds also have a role to play so that no community is left behind. So the Digital Europe program, you will soon see work begin on a roadmap for a smart communities data space and a toolbox for local digital twins. We can add to this the 100 cities that will participate in the Horizon Europe mission for climate-neutral smart cities. But we also need to build EU digital autonomy, what I call the third transition, resilience. Regions and community can play their part, using open standards and technical specification and open source software for digital solutions help us secure our technical sovereignty. It also makes financial sense. Public administration can avoid vendor locking and more easily reuse existing solutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, the program is vast and the ambition big. And this is why we need movements like Living-in.EU. All my congratulations to the Portuguese and to their leadership in hosting this event. I hope to see you all in person soon, and I would like to wish you a lively and very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Now, let's see if it doesn't work with that. Yes. Maybe yes, it's positioned. It's always difficult to speak up to your boss. You know, what do you say when he said, "Oh, no, that's a great political picture that we." I'll put it a bit lower because otherwise it starts resounding. I think you'll have a strong voice. It's difficult to speak after your political master when he said the political scene, the political context within which we work. But I will start with his gratitude and leadership to the Alentejo region. Carmen is here, and she spoke also last year. Remember that when we signed the declaration, she was always there. Marcos, I see him fairly regularly in Brussels and elsewhere to work on this movement together. But some of you who are deeply enshrined in some of the projects that we do may want to know a little bit of where we have come from, actually, what journey we have gone through. And then later on in the afternoon, I would like to discuss with you what sort of journey we can go on together. When this whole movement, Living-in.EU, started, where did it come from? I mean, you have been to many of these sort of events, always wonderful events, and we share good practices, and we meet each other, we network, and then either you don't really have the impact on your political masters, and they do their own thing, or your political masters, Carmen says, well, thank you very much, Marcos, enjoy yourself, but I have other fish to fry, you know, and that is the mismatch that we saw. When I say we, it were a number of organizations that had been working with the European Commission on a number of these projects. Martin is here. Yesterday you saw Dr. Nielsen. We also had the European Network of Living Labs. And we actually said that, yes, we can do another set of lighthouse projects, another set of large-scale pilots, another set of this, another set of that. And we all came to the conclusion that that is all nice, but if we would like to construct the European Union that Thierry Breton just described, we will need all 86,000 municipalities to sign up. All 86,000. Now that is quite ambitious. To be honest, when we started saying this number, I asked the colleagues, how many municipalities do we have? We didn't even know. So, but we need to all sign up. Now we set KPIs there that are a little bit less too bad off. So that's good enough. But it is that ambition that we set to say, let's work from a movement, from a vision, and then let's make sure that the projects feed into that mission. And I think the Aurora project is a very good example, because we were sort of halfway in the declaration was signed in Porto, and then all of a sudden, out of a call, 2 rural projects came up. And then we said, oh, maybe we should also think of the rural areas a little bit more, and not just all the cities that you always see. You know, you always see the same, let's say 200, 300 names in all the commission proposals. And at one of the summits or conferences that the Organization of Agile and Smart Cities organizes, normally in January, my Director General actually gave things that I want to repeat to you, which is the change of mindset. We need to move from cities to communities. I think Carmen just said in Portuguese, if I understood well, that this is a transversal thing. This is not a sector policy that we're doing. This is a transversal thing. And the word communities captures 2 things. It captures municipalities that do not qualify as a city. In my part, where I come from, the government, where the government is seen, is not called a city, even though they have like 600,000 inhabitants, because they never signed a charter. They're still a village. But you know, what is a city? What is a community? So it captures also the smaller places that we need to capture, but it also captures the areas within cities that are not covered. Because often you find, take Lisbon, take Amsterdam, take Barcelona, you know, we always showcase are the great stuff that we do in the middle of where all the tourists are. But go a little bit further north, a little bit further east, and you find that these communities are not covered by that digital transformation. And this is transversal nature. And again, Carmen said it, to bring everyone on board that we need to do. That is why you need to move from the idea of cities to community. Now this is a fight, because it's still easier to say, oh, smart cities, what do you do smart cities? And when I was nominated where I am, I'm the head of unit for technologies for smart rooms, don't ask me where the name comes from, but actually they said to me, Eddie, you're going to have the technologies for smart cities unit. They said, okay, by technology, do me one favor, allow me to call it technologies for smart room. That was the only influence I had on what I was supposed to do, or I wasn't asked to go, that wasn't asked, the mission statement was written. But that name I became, and this is important, that's the first thing that my Director General said, we need to move from cities to community. The second thing that he said, you need to move from systems to ecosystems. Now it's actually interesting coming from an engineer, because they are much more system-based. You know, we love to do interoperability stuff, and I had a conversation yesterday about interoperability. We love to develop new systems and new computers and quantum and all that sort of thing. But we find it difficult to bring all those elements together. And one of the things that we did in the Living-in.EU movement is to say, well, if we approach this digital transformation at local level, you need to have all stacks covered. You need to make sure that there's broadband coverage. No point having fantastic algorithms and cloud computing if you don't have 5G. That's not going to work. You need to make sure that you have the platforms in a certain way organized technologically. I will not go into the details. You need to have data management. You need to, in the end, go for the output. And often in these good practice seminars, you see, oh, I have a wonderful app for mobility. Yeah, that's nice, but how does it relate to the work you're doing on energy savings or on other things? And it's that integrated approach that we need to have, so from systems to ecosystems. And that is also how we would like to see the projects that are now coming on stream. Now, the way, so I decided not to propose, it was an option. I said I could propose 600 million for 50 large-scale pilots, and then we would do wonderful stuff that we can show. I said, no, but to be very honest, I wouldn't have gotten the 600 million. And so I also cut my losses. I said, well, why don't I just ask for 20 million to set the pieces of the puzzle in place to get a few support mechanisms. So they will come on stream. We find projects like Aurora, like the Aurora, there's DT for regions, Francesco will speak later from Emilia-Romagna, that we brought in together in that also what I call project ecosystem. And some of you will remember that what happened when you do a call, then as a result of the call, particularly on research projects, and then there's a civil servant who said, okay, they should go together, let's do a cluster meeting. And then the cluster becomes the policy. Now we said, no, we build an ecosystem also of the projects, and you're part of that conversation, and I really appreciate the work that Marcus is doing there. Then the last thing my Director General said at that conference was, we need to move from design and directive approaches to empowerment. It's also why you find, if you see the logo of Living-in.EU, it's not compatible with European Commission rules. The data, they ask me about data protection, I don't know, I don't deal with that. Because it's not my Commission movement. It's a movement from a number of representative organizations, and it's people like you that need to carry it. There's no point me pushing all these agendas on behalf of the Commission, because it's not going to work. So what we're really trying to aim is to empower you, and I think Bonavi said it this morning, to do things the way you think it needs to be done, as opposed to the way the Commission has set out in the communication or whatever paper, or in the grant agreement, as Bonavi said this morning. That's the starting point of getting that conversation, of empowering you to work in that same field. The name Living-in.EU, I also did not invent it, it comes from a collective thinking, but I actually quite like it. Because we put this flag up, and we have an anthem, and there's all sorts of things happening, but it must be meaningful to be part of that European Union, even more in a number of the crises that we have seen recently. So that is what we have tried to do, work from that common vision. Now, what do you do when you have a common vision? You say, okay, we all need to work on platforms and stuff. So I get all the engineers in the network and say, yeah, but what's the point if people like Marvin or the mayors of the city say, well, let's only just buy, well, I won't mention the name, but off-the-shelf products that basically give me a solution immediately, and I don't have to do development, but at the cost, of course, being locked in. And maybe it becomes more expensive and I lose the control over my data. But that's fine, because I have a nice app for my citizens and I'll be re-elected. No, we need both. We need the politicians to say we're going to do it in a different way, and then you need people like us to get together and live up that dream. And that is what we have tried to do with the declaration. And actually very interesting, I said it yesterday, but you were not in the room yesterday when, I think it's a different audience, but I say it again. When I heard vendor lock-in and interoperability, it's not the most sort of sexy word to go out in a speech. But interestingly enough, on page 75 of the results of the Conference of the Future of Europe, our citizens say we should avoid vendor lock-in. I was flabbergasted actually to read that. And on page 77, they say the European Union really needs to work on interoperability, our citizens. So, well, we didn't really get it wrong, I think. So we're getting there. Now, a number of the projects, as I said, are now coming on stream. There will be coordination and support action, which means that we as a Commission can value the efforts that some of the people have made, and some of them have made them for free, without being funded. But also more and more we came to the conclusion that how do I match that technical vision of urban platforms and data spaces and all that sort of stuff with the use cases that politicians need. And one of the intermediate result that we saw that we should have is local digital twins, because through the digital twins you actually bring all the technology together, because otherwise you can't create a local digital twin. But from that twin you can do a number of simulations, services, etc., that you can provide to the citizens, and Jeremy said it. That is also very logical link to the destination, basically mapping the whole of the world, and then doing all these simulations. So we basically try to make those agendas meet. Now, why it is important to be in Alentejo today, Marco said it, because also we find that villages of, let's say, 30, 40, 50,000 inhabitants do not have a chief technology officer with 20 staff that looks at the digital transformation. They can't do it individually. So if you're lucky, they will buy something off the shelf, but that might not be the right thing. And you see there's a sort of collectivization of the effort, which saves human resources, but also is much more efficient in terms of financial investment. And then you say, oh, I might have 20, 30, 40 municipalities coming together. Hey, actually, that's a region. And that is where a regional level plays a role. A different role in large metropolitan areas where there will maybe be a dominant player in such a constellation, but still they need to do it regionally. There's no point for Barcelona to limit itself to the Barcelona boundaries, because a lot of traffic comes in from abroad, a lot of people actually working from far away, so you need to have that much broader ecosystem that you have inside. We also said that this was born as a counterweight to, let's say, big tech suppliers that overwhelm us with fantastic stuff, but we can't really control it. We said we need to have a counterweight, so that also on the demand side we're properly organized to have a conversation. To give you a simple example, if the city of Evora would say to Google or a big company or Microsoft or let's say Nokia or Atos, whatever, well, can we negotiate a standard contract? The answer is you must be joking. It's a take it or leave it with all the stipulations. It is accept all type of thing on the cookies. Now, maybe Barcelona can do it, maybe Beijing can have certain negotiation levels, but not the city of Evora or my home city Utrecht. So you need to collectivize this, you need to have that counterweight. At the same time, you can't do it alone. None of the cities here, no one is going to actually develop the technology, because that's why they have companies. So we're now building that interaction between the supply side and the demand side, and a lot of companies, including the Atos that was here this morning, have actually joined the movement as supporters. And that's maybe the last point that I want to make. This is about the EU. It says the EU mayors are of the opinion, this, that, and the other. So that is, if you like, the collective feeling that we have to live in the EU, the pride we have in the blue flag with the yellow stars. But it's not an exclusive, it's not a fortress Europe that we're trying to build. We try to build it together with international partners. We try to build it together with international standard setting organizations. So there's a lot of technical work that is ongoing. We try to create, I was going to say team Platon, but let's say team EU to actually do this. And that is also where the assistance of the projects is very important, because you do a lot of learning in those projects that we need to go into the policy settings here. That interaction between projects and policies, I think, is very important. Now, as I said, it's difficult to have a big conversation after your political master, but I hope it clarifies a little bit the journey that we have gone through in the thinking as civil servants when we're preparing for the new financial perspective. We would like you to join that journey. Maybe it's almost a pilgrimage, but let's say it's maybe the right place to start here, a pilgrimage. But to join us on that journey, because we can only do it if you and I are committed to the end result through the work that we are already doing. That allows us, let me see, the next on the program is going to be a presentation by one of the leaders of the DT for Regions. It's the General Director of the Emilia-Romagna region, who's also leading this DT for Regions project, which is a project that comes from the Parliament also to say, let's bring the regions into this digital transformation. And I think he has a presentation online, so I think we will pass it on to him.
Eddie, can you hear me? Você pode me ouvir? Can you hear me? I'm waiting for your word. Can you hear me? Can you give me a feedback? Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I'm here, but I cannot hear you.
You cannot? Now?
Now, yes. Now, yes. I heard some voice. Are you there? Can I begin?
Yes, you can start now. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you to all. Boa tarde, senhoras e senhores. É um prazer estar aqui com vocês. Gostaria de ter estado em Portugal pessoalmente, mas era impossível para mim. I follow in English. I remember when I was here, I was there with Patrizio Bianchi, our actual minister, national minister of education, and a few days before the pandemic, regional minister applied to European integration. So we was, I remember we was in Belém, close to Lisboa, at the Sign Festival, also with your premier, Mr. Costa. So dear members, regional administration of Alentejo and all Portuguese governments, fellow civil servants from regional and local public administration across Europe, dear signatory regions of the Joint Boost Sustain Declaration, and the other members and supporters of Living-in.EU community. Dear Eddie, thank you for your words. Dear members of European institutions and bodies, good afternoon. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to take the floor in the context of this initiative today. I'm hold high regards of the European Regions for Cities Community Summit as a lively forum to discuss some of the key policies, issues of our times and to frame the regional contribution to societal progress. And I unfortunately, provisional commitments have prevented me from attending this meeting in person. But I look forward to fruitful opportunities for exchange of ideas with you in the near future. Before moving on, let me thank Mr. Marcos Antonio Nogueira and the organizing region Alentejo for the invitation. I will bring to the table a perspective drawing from the ongoing project that for region which I shall briefly present. Before dealing with the specific, however, allow me to highlight the linkage between digital transformation and cohesion and the role of regions that they have to play. In fact, it's that our view that the digital transformation has to be interpreted as a fundamental enabler of environmental sustainability and social welfare. In other words, as a key building block of a green and socially just transition. The digital reinvention of our public services must respond to a need to invent a new digital cohesion policy. And this policy must be designed having in mind how it will benefit instead of leaving behind the inner areas of our territory, the suburbs of our towns, the place most impacted by climate change, and in general, the most disadvantaged strata of our population. Regions have a role to play, not least in the roadmap towards the digital decade. Region nurture and upgrade regional ecosystem of innovation, including the field of artificial intelligence, big data. They looked after the establishment of digital innovation hubs in their territory. They developed capacity to serve common European purposes. Emilia-Romagna, for instance, is investing in APC computing. They support smaller communities which do not possess the necessary digital resources and expertise to their own. Finally, of course, regions procure, reuse, and develop digital solutions due to serve their own policies responsibility. For instance, in the domain of regional territorial planning, health care system, and mobility. In this context, that the project Digital Transformation for Regions, in brief, DT for Regions, was conceived. DT for Regions was born from preparatory actions supported by the European Parliament and enacted by DG Connect of the European Commission, and the project was launched in the July 2022, and it has a duration of 2 years. Its overarching goal is to build a European platform for regions gathering the containing digital solution based on big data and artificial intelligence to solve societal problems of public interest. DT for Regions is promoted and developed by a consortium of 14 partners, 6 regions. Together with us, there are Catalonia, Nouvelle-Aquitaine, Flanders, Basque Country, South Moravia, 2 metropolitan areas, Helsinki-Uzima, Greater London, 2 research centers and regional services, EURCAT and BCON, 2 European networks, and Daring, and 2 private partners, Deloitte Portugal and Badureles. The local DT for Regions platform shall serve as a place containing dedicated resources for regionals and local public administration dealing with design, development, and provision of innovative digital services to their citizens. Regions, cities, and communities will be able to share challenges and policy responses through tailored DT stories and DT solutions with their peers from across Europe. Hence, the platform will constitute a collaborative environment and for mutual learning, also comprising training activities for civil servants and open forum for discussing the ethical, social, and organizational implication of big data and artificial intelligence. To reach that aim together with our partners, even since the launch of the project, we have sought in the C2ADT for region in the cost of the strategy launched at European level, identifying synergies with the sister initiatives, also thanks to the advice consistently provided by the Unit Connect C3 of the European Commission. At the same time, of course, we have sought to maintain and unfold the regional perspective which lies in the heart of the project. This contraction of bridges as entitled first and foremost strategic alignment by design with the vibrant community of Living-in.EU. All more so, I warmly cherish this precious opportunity to address the signatory regions of Living-in.EU because this allows me to highlight a point. As the DT for region process has moved to blend in more conscious and consistent ways the needs and challenges affecting the local level, so the Living-in.EU movement has increasingly realized the desirability and regional pillar and the regional task force within in its community. From this cross-fertilization, several activities developed jointly in the past few months have undoubtedly benefited. As nears the completion of its first years, the project is reaching a decisive turning point. Let me just name the few of the activities in which the project has undertaken during 1 year. First, the co-design of the platform rested on a landscape analysis of the extant digital solution, a collaborative design exercise with the consortium, and ad hoc interviews and comprehensive DT for region survey of European regional and local authorities. Second, the DT for regions survey has also fed into local capacity building, mapping the needs of regional and local authorities in terms of training materials and mutual learning. As a result, joint capacity building program has been kicked off with the DT for regions and Living-in.EU workshop on the 31st March last. Third, pending the creation of the DT for regions platform, the project has been equipped with a temporary website, Twitter handle, and LinkedIn account. Ongoing communication activities include newsletters, meet the partners campaign, and the promotion of related events. Regarding the next step of the DT for region project, I would like to mention the final piece of the news that will stimulate your interest. We are due to have a mid-project conference by the end of June, more precisely Tuesday 20th and Wednesday 29th. The event will take place in Barcelona, but in hybrid form, so that will be possible to attend each session either physically and online. During the event, in particular, the first release of the Tutor for Region platforms will be unveiled. Then the platform will undergo a phase of testing and validation with a view to launch its final release before the end of 2022. Based on the letter of support we have received and on the several regions having contacted us to inquire the development of the project, our ambition is to turn the DT for Region platform into a point of reference for regional and local administration through Europe, looking for a usable digital solution in different policy domains. In Barcelona, other DT for Region activities open to external contribution will also be presented, such as a call for application for a DT for Regions award, which will reward the most innovative solution based on big data and artificial intelligence. Really, we will encourage public administration to submit digital solution before the deadline in October. The conference will also encompass an open debate on the social impact of artificial intelligence, a special session with the regional and local authorities discussing the digital transformation, thematic workshop on data space, digital twins, and ethic implication. Save the date for Barcelona, so please. We will wait in this conference. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to an inspiring series of contributions.
Thank you very much, Francesco Frieri. It's a great pleasure to see you here, even though it's not in person, but I hope we will soon have the occasion to meet again. Again, it's important the role that Francesco plays, but also the region of Emilia-Romagna plays in the conversation that we have. To go then from the region to the smaller entities, the villages, we have with us online, but I promise you afterwards we will have actually two people in the room, and I'm probably gonna throw up the program and Marcos will hate me for it and I might not get dinner, but then I would suggest that you actually take the floor, and as if there are questions or comments or things that you have missed, that we make it a little bit more interactive. Otherwise it becomes very, very difficult to stay concentrated, I think. Edina Ochko is working for the Smart Villages, which actually represents many of you in the reality, and I think she's on video if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, hello. Tell me if you can hear me fine.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Good afternoon to everyone, and it's a great pleasure to be with you, although it's only online, and I'm really sorry for that. I'd love to be there with you in person, but anyway, I'm really grateful for the opportunity and the cooperation, and I think what I will present will resonate a lot with the introduction that we heard, so I was really glad to hear that rural communities were mentioned, so this is what I will talk about here. So you are seeing hopefully the slides, I hope so. Anyway, I'm talking about mostly two projects that my company 40 Group is leading with other partners. It's just as we heard, it's a preparatory action supported by the European Commission. So these are two separate projects, but I'd like to talk about both of them because it happens that we are actually coordinating both. So just to say a very few words about smart villages and how they came about, although many of you might have heard about it already. But there has been an EU action on smart villages back in 2017, and this was initiated by the European Parliament and then taken up successfully by the European Commission. So at the time, of course, there has been already many smart villages across Europe, but the concept itself, formulated in such a form, was new when it was launched through the EU action. And as we say in Hungarian, I'm originally from Hungary, that sometimes this reverse order, so it's a bit like preparing the code to the button. So there we had a shiny, nice button, smart villages as a concept, but nobody really understood at the beginning, like what it exactly means and what it should entail in practice. So because of that, there were a series of actions launched by the European Commission to help to clarify this notion, and then in a more practical terms, and again, I can fully sympathize with those statements on how we can make these things practical and also influence policy decisions to support smaller communities. The European Commission has launched a series of actions. The first one was a pilot study, which precisely is called Smart Eco-Social Villages. So it's not just on smart, it's smart eco-social villages. Some words are missing there. And the purpose of this was to come up with a definition and also with a few case studies and best practices. And then there were two so-called preparatory actions on smart rural areas in the 21st century, the first one and the second one. And no wonder that we tried to shorten the title to make it more personal. So the first project was called Smart Rural 21. And it was running, it started in December 2019, and it's still running, it's finishing this year. And the second project we are also coordinating, it's shortly called Smart Rural 27, it's the second preparatory action. And this is running from December 2020 until next year, end of year. So these are a series of actions that the European Commission launched to make the smart villages happen. So let's come just for a second to the definition, and this is what the study came up with, but it can differ from country to country, so it might not be the same in each member state, so it's kind of a recommendation. But in the smart villages context, villages is a term that's not used everywhere, so it might be more precise to call smart rural communities or rural communities or smart rural communities. And essentially, those are the ones who use innovative solutions to build on their local strengths and opportunities. So in a classical way, using a smart village strategy. Now, the emphasis in the smart villages concept is really on the participatory approach. So really it should be done with the engagement of the local community. And digital technology is mentioned as a possibility, but it's not necessarily just the single and central focus of innovation, because we often refer to social innovation as well, which is of course connected to the participatory approach. But what's very important that in the smart villages context, it might be slightly less digital, although we are of course experiencing with a lot of digital technologies. The reasons are multiple. It was quickly realized that the connectivity issue might be an issue in some of the rural areas, so they don't equally have access to internet the same way. We shouldn't leave the lagging behind regions further behind just because they might not have access to technology. And also the social aspect is important. Sometimes there is no sufficient critical mass, like in the case of smart cities, for instance, to introduce certain digital solutions. Yet it's a very important part of the concept we need to focus on, but maybe it needs a slightly different approach from what we have in the smart cities context. So what these projects are trying to do is really to operationalize, if you'd like, this more theoretical definition. And we've been working very actively with a series of local communities. So just to say that the first project, so the Smart Rural 21, really aimed at supporting villages across Europe to develop smart village strategies, but also to take action, very practical, concrete, innovative actions on the ground. So this is what the first project did, and to draw some lessons and make policy recommendations on that basis. And of course, there are many similarities in the Smart Rural 27, which starts to map the situation on smart villages, where are they located, what are the strengths, what is the policy framework, and so on. And then it really aims to prepare member states to develop a more effective smart villages policy support framework. And I think there is still a lot to do in that regard, which of course would be really nice to discuss with you further. So in the Smart Rural 21 project, we were just selecting 21 villages. It was foreseen that we should select according to the terms of reference that we had 17, but there was a huge interest across Europe. It was a bit imbalanced. There were much more actually from Portugal, Spain, and Italy than from other countries, but we received over 730 applications to be part of this project, which really shows the huge interest among rural communities in the smart approach. At the end, we selected a slightly larger number, which of course resonates also a bit with the title of the project. So we managed to support 21 villages to develop their strategies and take action. But what's more important, that we are in touch with many of the applicant villages, because we really didn't want to just let them or leave them out from this project. We really try to engage them through a series of additional activities like smart morning cafes, where we discuss different village approaches. They do cross visits to each other, which we support financially, and so on. So this is just to reflect the huge interest. This is the process of the project, and I won't go into this. I just wanted to give it to you as a snapshot to see what we are doing in this project, starting in the middle to select the villages and then to support them, organize cross visits, a series of capacity building events. And of course, this take action bit is very, very important, where we actually realize on the ground, small scale, but still on the ground projects with these communities. If you'd like, of course, you can check this in more details, and I'm happy to share information, but I don't want to go into this. I'd rather just transfer some of the key messages for this event, which I think are very important. That I think there are a lot of support frameworks, as we heard from Eddie, a lot of supporting structures, programs, funding measures that seem to be suitable for smart rural communities. But when we actually look at the funding schemes, it often turns out that many of this funding actually does not reach, the funding sources do not reach the local communities. There might be several reasons for that, but it's kind of a bit of a fact. We did a number of analysis based on different community projects that we had, like what they were funded from. And there seems to be a picture which says that often cohesion policy and regional development fund might not reach to a huge extent the villages, but of course there are very good examples when they do. Even within the European Fund for Rural Development, it's mostly the leader approach, if you heard about that, that communities have access to. So this is where I was saying that we should really still do a lot to match the policy with the needs of the member states, with the needs of the villages, to design member state policies that match these interests. So this is one key message that I would like to convey, and this is what we are really trying to do through this project. So this is kind of a utopistic image that once we designed, because in an ideal world, the villages should not, and rural communities, or be it cities, should not care about like which funding source they are receiving funding from. It's rather like there should be a multi-funded approach to smart villages, and these approaches to realize these integrated strategies that they have. And I'm really glad to hear that many DGs are cooperating on this at the European Commission level. So there is strong commitment, and this event is actually also a representation of this cooperation that we are doing with different entities. So how you can get involved maybe, or please keep us in your mind. We are, from policymakers, we are really looking for cases. We are searching for policy lighthouse examples that can demonstrate that rural communities can be supported by EU funds. We are setting up a European Smart Villages Observatory, and you are more than welcome to get engaged in some of those exchanges if you are interested. And Here are my details in case you would like to get in touch or would you like to hear more about these projects. We might even have the final event in Portugal, which is a nice coincidence. So I hope we can cooperate with many of you on that event at the end of September. And if you want to be kept in the loop, please keep visiting the Smart Role 21 or Smart Role 27 website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Edina, and please stay with us for a while, because I'm going to do something different than what the program says, rather than announce the next person's. So I hope it's okay, Marcos. But a question to you. I mean, you've heard a number of speakers now, and I think particularly Edina is very close to the work that you're doing in the rural areas. Do you have messages to either Carmen and myself, to Edina? Francesca is hopefully still there as well, or questions that sort of came to you while you were listening to the people? I know it's a bit tricky, you weren't expecting this, but it is the opportunity to do so. No? Yes, please. I think for logistical reasons, because of the camera that's fixed position, you will have to come to the stage, because otherwise I feel it doesn't work. I'm right, no? I'm looking at the technical people. I'm right. No, you have to come here, and then you can ask your question from the podium or comment.
Was it expected?
That's why we do it this way. Yes. Otherwise, it gets a bit.
I just wanted to know the main challenges for this project in the future and what they will be. I don't know if she sees me, but it's my main question.
She will. Sorry, repeat it again there.
The main challenges for this project in the future that you are anticipating.
Edina, what are your challenges?
We've got many, but okay. Yes, thanks for the question. I think, obviously, again, rural communities might be in a very different situation from some of the more urban areas. So many of them are depopulating. The community is not that strong in many areas, especially in Eastern Europe. We are working with a number of villages that are struggling to engage community members because the areas are getting really depopulated. So in terms of realizing that action, this has been a challenge, but of course we saw some really innovative examples that I'm happy to share, the communities that we've been working with. So that's definitely one of the key challenges, because the participatory approach is not always that easy to realize as it seems. And of course, on the policy side, what we heard today, and I'm really hopeful that this is the message that we are transferring here, that we need easier access to some of the funds, not just the rural development funds, but to other funds to rural areas, because there are many actions that these other EU funds can support. So this is really what we are trying to do through the task forces. But obviously, it's a challenging task to make this realize that it's not just rural development funds that support these actions. And of course, there are very good examples for that, but it's still a challenge to engage even more authorities and programs in this. In a short.
Thank you very much, Edina. Anyone else? The ice is broken. Yes, please, come on up. I promise, Marcos, we won't be too long, but it's good to get all the questions and answers done. And then I'm going to, just excuse me 1 second, I'm going to ask Carmen afterwards, but also to you, Edina. What is the difference of being a village in the European Union and a village outside the European Union? You can have a few minutes to prepare.
Hello, this is Truls from the municipality of Narvik in the northern Norway. Do you have any specific requirements for small villages to take part of this project? And can you elaborate more on how small villages can take part of this project?
Thanks a lot for the question. So the truth is that the EU project, this one is ending, and it has to. It's sometimes a disappointment for small villages because this was not an investment project. So that should come from other EU funds. It's a preparatory action, although we really try to implement practical actions. So one thing is that we cannot select more villages. Of course, I can tell you how we selected the villages out of the 730 because it was an open process, but there is no way that we can select more villages. Villages can get engaged in the final actions that we are doing, so we are more than happy to engage more of you together with the come along villages that we are working with. I'm also managing on an independent basis. It's a network of European network for smart villages, but it's not connected to this project, but we want to continue this networking and exchange through that. We are doing that on a voluntary basis, but there is big interest in that. So if your village is interested, you're more than welcome to join that process as well. And then the funding, it will depend, the rest of the funding and how to apply will depend very much how member states design future smart villages policies.
We'll come back to you, Edina, with this same question. What is it? Why is it important to be a village inside the European Union as opposed to a village outside the European Union? Carmen first.
Well, this project is a good answer for this, because being a villager working in this area in European, we are working together, so we can identify where are the main good results, and we can adapt for our villagers. So it is what Aurora has done. So it is the main answer for this. Okay. We can work together, and this is a better work and better results for that.
Excellent, thank you very much, Carmen. And for you, Edina?
I think, of course, the context is very different. Even within Europe, there are huge differences in terms of how villages work. So it's already hard to compare them one to the other. But definitely what we just heard, the exchange element is crucial. So of course, we can import and export solutions that we have, smart solutions. There is a lot of learning between the villages. I'm also working on a World Bank project, a small assignment, which is in Azerbaijan, Georgia and Armenia. They are trying to set up the same smart villages concept, and it's a very exciting experience actually. But the challenges are often surprisingly very similar: how to engage the community, how to develop a strategy, how to find the right solutions. They are also working a lot, planning to work with digital solutions. So it's definitely worthwhile to watch out. There are smart villages approaches outside of Europe extensively, and it's really interesting to learn from them and try to transfer some of our experiences as well.
Thank you very much. So this was a short intermezzo to in the speakers panel, but now we go back to the people on stage. The next speaker is Luis Silva. Is Luis here? Yeah, please. Come on up. Who comes from Porto, and the good thing about Porto is that it is where not the movement started. So the prenatal care was in Oulu, where we started the declaration, etc. So, but then the nativity celebrations were in Porto when there was the Smart Cities Summit. So we were delighted to be in Porto and do this. It was just before the Corona hit us. But also to have Porto still being very engaged in the work that they're doing, and also showing that leadership through Porto that Portugal still takes in this. So Luis, the floor is yours. You can take the mic, yeah?
Okay. It's not like this. Okay. I'm the tech guy. I'm not the tech guy at all. Yes. Good afternoon. I'm pretty sure you can all. My name is Luis Silva. For those at home, I come here to present Porto ecosystem. Since I have a part and accent, por terem-me convidado a sítio especial como o Alentejo, onde tenho família e amigos e venho cá vezes, e é muito bom ver esta parte a ser dinamizada, e por isso gostava de pedir uma salva de palmas para a organização por tudo aquilo que tem feito até agora. Está bem? So, let's start. Okay. So, first of all, my name is Luis. I'm responsible for the human resources and marketing of a tech company. We do casino games. We are spread all over the world. We do land-based casino games and also for digital ones. You can find it in some well-known websites. And I'm here to talk about Porto Tech Hub, which is a non-profit organization based in Porto. So how everything started? It started in 2015 with these three major companies called Farfetch. I'm pretty sure you already know them. Critical Software and Bleep. The ecosystem in Porto was not really developed, so it was really important for these companies to mix and to join forces in order to develop the ecosystem. Okay, so they joined forces and they aim. That's why I'm still here, to develop the ecosystem and to bring not only more resources from another parts of Europe and another parts of the world, but also to develop our own mindset and to share value within the companies. So what we propose, I have here some approaches, some dimensions that we work on in Porto Tech Hub Association. Myself, I was a volunteer, now I'm vice president, I was vice president and now I'm the president. Of course, leading up community technology is very important for us, but I would say that the people are what matters most, especially in our ecosystem where, I don't know if you know, the human resources are not very available at the moment. It's very tough to hire people that have the tech skills, and we at Porto Tech Hub are trying to find some ways to improve and also to develop the community that we are in. I will show you after. So, how many associates we have till now? We started with 3 companies. We have now all these companies that you can see here, more than 30 companies. We have 4 more companies entering to the association. We are very happy and very glad to have them. Just for you to know, we have small companies with 8 till 10 people, as B6 Software is a startup. We have mid-sized companies as myself, as my company, Falamac. We have 2,030 people in Porto. And of course, we have Adidas, Natixis, very well-known companies, and Bosch that are multinational, and they to acquire more than 1,000 people working in Porto for them. So Porto has been developing the ecosystem very well, especially because they created in City Hall this department called Invest Porto. Invest Porto helps not only to attract companies and people to the city, but also to retain, which is the main challenge that we have now. They worked in the beginning only to attract companies and talent, and we are now facing the new challenge with COVID, retaining people working in Porto, because it's very easy for each one of us, as you already speak here, and told us to work for another company in another country. So the main challenge now is to retain people. We have also a good partner. It's called ISEP. It's the Institute of Engineering in Porto. I will explain later why that is so important for us, this partnership, and why ISEP is a key crucial partner to develop not only the ecosystem, but the people, especially the people that live with us. So I will show you some actions. We have a lot of actions right now, but I will show you the main ones. I hope it will inspire you, and I hope to hear some questions in the end. So one of the main activities that we do in order to develop the community in Porto, the ecosystem, is international conference. Okay, prior to the COVID, we were doing it at Alfândega. I don't know if you have been there. Probably yes, but it's a very beautiful place in Porto. And we bring some international speakers in order to share knowledge, share their own perspective of tech programming languages, approaches, new frameworks, because as you know, technology is always developing, is always running against time, so we have to bring some people in order to tell us a little more and to improve some, and to gain some knowledge in the companies that we work on. So these are some photos of the conference. The last one in 2019, we had 1,000 people, okay? So it was a really big effort for us. We had like 3 different stages where people could go and to learn more about tech and learn about everything that surrounds technology, because it's not only programming that elects the knowledge that we have, also how to develop the products, also how to develop the companies, and also to develop the people that work in the companies. Okay, last year we did it digitally. Okay, it was the first time for us. It went really well. These were the speakers that we brought from another countries, as well as some Portuguese speakers, because we have also very big names in Portugal right now, and it went really well. We had 2 different stages as well. The feedback was really nice, and in medium we had like 1,050 people connected to the conference, so we think it was really good for the perspectives that we had. This year, I invite you also to come to the conference. It will be in October. How do we do this conference being a non-profit organization? By having sponsors with us, not only the companies that are part of the association, but also companies that are not part of the association. By that, companies from Lisbon also sponsor our conference because they want to promote and give new awareness to the brand. Okay, so you can go to our website. You will find here the call for speakers. They are still open. If you want to propose something, please be my guest. Talking about Institute of Engineering of Porto, and this particular program that we created 5 years ago also, it's a very important program for us. Why? Because it's a requalification program, okay? So everyone that has a degree in communication, in pharmacy, I don't know, anything else, can apply to this program. It's based on a new innovative approach in a university. Okay, it's peer learning based, so people don't go to the classes as usually. They stay in the classes learning with the students and with the teachers in a non-formal way. So this is a requalification program. The goal to this program is to increase the people that know how to program and are into the ecosystem of technology of Porto. And this year we have still 2 classes, 60 students. Okay, it's a very big responsibility because they pay it for themselves. The program and the teachers are the ones that give the normal degree in technology. So it's a very it has a good reputation. And after 9 months of post-graduation, trying to learn how to program and trying to learn what is agile methodologies, they can enter in one of the associations. Okay, I can tell you now that we have 60 students finishing, and one of the company wanted to open 60 vacancies for the trainings. By that, I want to show you how is important this program for the companies, because only one company wants everyone. So it's very good for the people also, because usually they come from another background and they give another perspective to the companies, as it is in San Francisco, for example. This year, the applications are already open. The program is mostly in English, and it's been very successful regarding the competition that we have in the market. The companies are very happy with it. I want to show you, for example, we started only, of course, with one class, because the responsibility was really big, how to put people that are not from tech ecosystem in tech ecosystem during 9 months. We did that trial, and 12 went well. We have here the number of people that stayed in the companies where they do the internship. We at Pharmac have 10 people from Switch, and I can tell you that they don't have they don't have big difference from the ones that were studying for 5 years after 1 year that working with us, and it's very grateful for us. Any questions?
No. Okay. I'm going to ask.
Oh, okay.
I have two questions.
Okay.
The first one is, this is the Living-in.EU Summit, and we explained what we just did. We started in Porto, we bring the cities together, and part of that is precisely to give companies like yours, plus the cluster of companies, oxygen to breathe and to live and to work with. So now the big question would be, how has the Living-in.EU movement changed your life? But I will make it more moderate questions. How do you think that, with the work that you're doing, that it helps to be linked up and have cities work together? My second question is more linked to the rural dimension. I mean, the numbers that you mentioned, and you have so many engineers and all working together, yes, that works for Porto, for Lisbon, but how can we make that same work, or how can regions like Embedding or others in Europe benefit from the work that you're doing more directly other than attending the conference? So those are the two questions that I would have.
Okay, so thank you very much. Good questions. So let's go. I will start with the final one. Regarding your question, what we are aiming to do is to get the program in another parts of the country. Okay, because the association is called Porto, but it's not only for Porto. The city, let's say. We call it Porto because it all started there, but we have now companies from Braga, we have now companies from Aveiro, we have companies that are not based in Porto, in Maia, for example. So it's not only strict to the Porto city. Okay, that's a crucial aspect of our association. Even though it's called Porto, because it's a huge name for us, and the brand gets more awareness because of that. And also, we wanted to make the switch bigger, of course. We are trying to find ways to escalate the program to other places. I know that in Lisbon they already have. I will be very happy if someone here in the audience or at home would want to talk a little bit, how can we bring this program to the south part of the country, because actually it's not so hard, okay, because we don't work there full time, we are not paid, of course, and we are still doing it. So I think it's achievable everywhere in the country, and we are eager to show how we did and to bring this program to everywhere in the country, actually. I don't know if I answered your question.
Absolutely. So we go for the Porto Tejo tech part.
Yes, for example.
And the second question, how does a European movement that actually says, like, we need to work together to set, I'll call it standards, but it's family of standards, set the interoperability mechanisms between us, how would local companies, in this case, Porto, but also companies here in the region or in other regions that we're working with, how would they benefit from such a collectivization of the interoperability?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. So Michael Porter was saying that the value needs to be shared in order to finish the competition, but to grow side by side. So this is our proposal. We want to share the value, and I will show you. I can tell you now. We have encounters for the companies in the association where we speak openly about some issues that usually, so most of the times companies don't like to share. For example, we had an encounter to share ideas how every company will come back to office after COVID. Okay, how the talent will react, how will be the negative approach, how will be the positive approach. Let's share, because we didn't have scripts during that time, so we wanted to learn with each other. Another example of these encounters inside the association with all the companies is one of the encounters that we did. Actually, it was very good because we talked about the turnover in the companies. And it's an issue that none company wants to talk about it, because it means that they are losing people, okay, every year or every month. For example, let's say that Falmac had 11% of turnover in 1 year, and we thought that was really big. Actually, speaking with companies, we not only saw that this was really normal in the ecosystem, but we also understood that the value was low. Okay, so we were okay. It's a trend. It's normal. Let's improve with what we have. And also, it's very good because even though all the companies are fighting for the assets, for the human resources, we can still find our own identity, our own culture inside of Porto. By that, each company has a different culture, a different way of approach, a different purpose, and we can try to find a position inside of the market that's more directed and more segmented to each company. For example, at Falmac, with the casino games, our strategy is to approach people that like games in general, because in Portugal there is no studio doing video games. That's what the youngsters really like nowadays. So this is our strategy. No one, not the other companies are not doing that because it wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so basically we can lose 1 or 2 people, but we gain a large knowledge regarding what everyone is doing, and that is very important for us to keep the ecosystem developing itself.
Thank you very much. Anyone from the audience still has a question? Thank you very much. Then let's move on to one of the parents, or representing one of the parent organizations of the Living-in.EU group. I mentioned the Organization for Agile and Smart Cities. And Martin Brunsko has been very active in designing this, in setting it up, and also in working with the organization. And I would say he's one of the key players in it. So I'm really pleased that Martin is able to join us today in person. Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. You hear me well? Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Marcos, to the Invitation region for the invitation to come here and speak. And it's lovely to finally, after so much time of working together, to be here. We have met Carmen so many times online, but now here on the ground, it's such a pleasure. So thanks so much. My name is Martin Brunsko, and as you say, Eddie, I'm here in person, and that is by choice and profound wish, also to ensure that we can follow up on these things in person, because I think what we are addressing here, and I'll give some few examples, really takes, you need to see each other in the eye, because there's so much need to build close relations across the different levels. So I think, Eddie, we will not succeed unless we have these stakeholders together, trusting each other, that when we go the next step, it will hold. There will be, you know, our local future will be respected, our joint vision is strong, and that we will all pull. So both from the top down and from the bottom up. So let me start by telling you where I'm from, because I think that's important. My grandfather grew up in countryside on the island of Zealand in Denmark, 100 kilometers from Copenhagen. My grandmother grew up outside, in the rural area, outside of the second city of Denmark, Aarhus, in a small village. So they grew up in the rural area. They then met in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. They had my father, and he met my mother, and he was hired to join the university in Aarhus, the second city. So when they were moving there, before I arrived, they should decide where to live. Should they live in the academic ghetto in the city? Or should they get like a large garden, large house, out in the village, you know, 1 hour's drive or 3/4 outside. So what did they choose? They chose the rural area, where I grew up, and of course in close interaction with the city and so on. So I feel I grew up on this border between the very rural. I come from a community of 250 people, and I lived outside the community. So seeing all these layers and how difficult it is actually to get the other layer to take this perspective, I feel that's our starting ground. Because this is from, can I say, the old world. It has always been difficult. Now we add this layer of the digital. And we just heard the colleague, well, all the colleagues actually addressing different parts of these ecosystems. Well, if it's difficult to address in the real world, trying to do it somehow in this new emerging digital domain, it's just complexity multiplied with complexities. So my first piece of advice, and I think what we have instilled in the movement of Living-in-EU is that we start in the real world, if we can say it like that, and then we ensure that the alliances we forge there are reflected on the digital, so that some new dynamics that come from the digital don't overtake or undermine what we have established. So that would be my first point. Second, I think we then need to understand what is the relationship between projects and communities. And communities, I mean communities around projects. I think this is very much a community around some key projects. We have Aurora here, we have Dear Rural, we have ET for Regions, we have many others. But what we have learned, I think collectively, is that one project is just a project. You do the effort, you win, you run it, it's done, and then the agenda moved on. So how can we ensure that these investments that are made on all levels, local, national, regional, EU level, that they're actually, all these ships are drawing in the same direction. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago it was not felt so urgent. But I think now with the geopolitical situation, I mean with the public health and COVID, sure, but also now the security situation makes it imperative for Europe to find a path and to use every force that's available. Yeah? We have to use all of it wisely. But how can we do that without top-down describing all the actions in all the projects? Then they're not resonating with the local priorities or personal priorities. So we have to find this middle ground or common ground that we can all agree on, and then we go and do different things. I'm a fairly technical person, so what we bring, what OAS brings, is a strong voice, a very diverse voice of communities, of local authorities, mostly from Europe, but also around the world. And there is no way ever to align all of it. Never. I mean, why would we have local politicians if there was not, disagreement on things? So what is what we can agree on, and what is where we can do politics and ensure that our cultures and identities are seen. So on the technical level, what we've been working with the colleagues from Eurocities, from the European Network of Living Labs, from Committee of the Regions, from particular regions here, marked us with Aurora, I think very, very strongly and positively reaching out to your network among the regions and the local areas. What we have been trying to define is then what in the digital domain would be this common ground. And we call that minimal interoperability. And what are the mechanisms that need to be defined? That could go into European legislation eventually, like we have for geospatial information. So every municipality, although about 80, 90,000 European municipalities, they have the legal obligation to know where people are, to know where house buildings are. Well, they want, because otherwise you cannot tax them, and otherwise you cannot manage it. Yeah, that's sure. But it's the law. And what's coming now, of course, we have seen GDPR about personal data. That is now, we're trying to find what is a good way to legislate about these things. But there will be, and that is also being addressed quite strongly and increasingly strongly by the European Commission, there will be legislation about interoperability. So how all these systems will play together? If we don't do anything, we will have a very bad legislation about interoperability. And unfortunately, all 80, 90,000 municipalities will have to implement this bad law. Let's try to avoid that. And let's try to use the strength there is in European legislation, formulated as local laws. Let's try and use that strength to move in a direction which is in line not only with Europe. I mean, what is Europe? It's a big thing, right? Some people come and go, we know. But in line with what we collectively want and where we want to go. But ensuring that on the ground here locally, in Evora, in my hometown of Maria Magdalena, yes, that's the name of the little place, that we can actually also see our future. So that's what we will be working on, and we will be working with you, and we will work way beyond the projects. We will work because we have strong links through many, many colleagues and through our collaboration, and I would say our joint future. So we can be much more concrete, Eddie, if we want to go into what is the fair artificial intelligence minimal interoperability mechanism. I don't think that's the forum here, but I'm happy to discuss. But we're here, and we're here to support good local futures. So thank you for the invitation. Thank you for your time here also, and I'm very happy to engage with you and with the colleagues as you wish.
Any questions for Martin? No. But yes, don't call in. You need to go up on the stage just because otherwise people can't see.
And in reality, it's just because Eddie wants us in front of the European.
Exactly.
Please tell who you are and where you're from, so that colleagues know.
I'm Stefan Banya. I'm representing the company Bavenir, partner of the Aurora project from Czech Republic. My question is regarding the legislation of the interoperability mechanism. So, what we are talking about, minimum whatever interoperability, it's a very dynamic thing, which is evolving. And how do you see the potential legislation of something which is so much evolving in time, because the legislation will always have certain kind of delay, so we agree on something, it goes to the acts in 1 year or even later. So how do you think of, or whether there are any kind of examples already of that time? That's the question.
You want to go first, Eddie, and then
No, I'd love to hear what you advise us on the legislation, but you're right, it needs to be dynamic legislation that can be adapted. Very good point. There you go. Okay.
Thank you for that very, very important question. So first of all, I think the first thing to take in mind is that legislation needs to be as little as possible, but sufficient. So we need to put the core principles in the legislation, and then the details will be updated. So what we do in the Living-in-EU movement is that we have the declaration, which is quite standard. Then we have the specifications of the minimal interoperability, which is an evolving document. But you can refer to it. So you can version it. You can say, okay, so we refer to this document. If you want a particular version, you can take version 5, which is the one that's been delivered now. But I think we even have, you asked for a good example, the INSPIRE directive, which is the geospatial information, which every municipality needs to implement. It's already working on that. It's based on, European decisions, but in line with ISO, the International Standardization Organization. So I think we already know how to do it. It's just a new field where we need to find out what is the common ground. The problem is everybody wants to own it, and we need to bring it into a governance that observes the different voices, not only Brussels, but also the local. That would be my simple answer.
Martin meant the city of Brussels. Anyway, thank you very much, Martin. Martin is still here, so you can always ask a question. Now, I talked about use cases before, and I don't know, is Filomena Mendes? No, she's not online or here, so we park that for the moment. What time is it? Is it time for a break, Marcos? Or shall we do a video first?
If we don't have Professor Philomena Mendes in the room, no? I'm sorry, perhaps she's late, I don't know, but...
No worries. To be honest, because the second half of the program, there's a few speakers that are not available, so we have a bit of margin to... Now, what I'm going to do then is, we're going to... Is it almost time for the break? What are we, 16:50? So we're bang on time. Yeah. We're bang on time for a little break and enjoy the sunshine with, and then we come back with the rest of the program. But I'll give you 15 minutes, and I'm sorry to say, I'm Dutch. Okay. still have some people. Good. And the reason why I was so tight with your break is that you can actually earlier go for drinks. I mean, it's all planned. So that is why we're here. So thank you for coming back. What we do now is continuing on this theme of the geospatial information with a speaker from Germany on the European Spatial Development Policy. It is Dr. Daniel Melzian, and he will address you with a video.
In the new Leipzig Charter, the Territorial Agenda 2030, the EU long-term vision for rural areas, and in many other policy documents. A lot has been initiated and accomplished to support smart cities and smart regions in projects through funding schemes and in research. To implement the Territorial Agenda 2030, the action-oriented framework to promote territorial cohesion in Europe, Germany launched a pilot action, A Future for Lagging Regions, fostering the implementation of spatial strategies. And I am happy that the region of Alentejo, our host for the summit today, is one of our European partners in the project. An important element of the pilot action is digital transformation in lagging regions, because digitalization can play a key role in providing development chances for structurally weaker and less populated rural regions with small and medium-sized towns. Digital solutions offer a lot of opportunities to make services easier and more comfortable, to facilitate their delivery, and sometimes to even render them possible. This includes services of general interest, mobility, energy efficiency, as the supply of goods, and civic participation. The pandemic in the past 2 years has accelerated the digitalization of cities and municipalities. Home office, distance schooling, and e-health are just some examples. The pandemic has also shown the potential of digitalization to make cities and municipalities more resilient to disruptive events. But it has also shown the necessary preconditions for digital transformation. To benefit from digitalization, people, enterprises, and places depend on fair and affordable access to high-quality internet, next-generation mobile phone connections, and digital skills. There is a digital divide in Europe, and it is not between countries, but between big cities and rural areas with small and medium-sized towns. The 8th Cohesion Report clearly shows this, and it is worrying from a territorial cohesion perspective, because small and medium-sized towns play a crucial role in regional economic development and social well-being for their surrounding areas. These are the places that are more likely tend to feel left behind, becoming less trustful in Europe and turning to populism. Next to these infrastructural aspects, we see a lot of supporting framework conditions that are necessary to successful digital transformation. I will focus only on a few that have been highlighted in our pilot action and reflect and affirm the guidelines of the Smart Cities Charter. It starts with setting the right strategy and steering the process of digital transformation by cities and municipalities. Integrate digitalization in your urban or spatial development strategy and identify the areas of application for your specific place. This is an important point because it differs even in neighboring areas depending on size, population, digital experience, and many other factors. Organize the process in a collaborative, inclusive, and co-creative way with a broad civic and stakeholder participation. This will be crucial for acceptance Be aware of your role as an administration. Are you the responsible enabler? Are you a participant or only an observer? Many problems result from unclear roles and self-conceptions. Lastly, join forces and network, especially if you are a small town, medium-sized. Digital solutions might be even more efficient and effective if you boost the critical mass of users, have scaling effects, or just exchange on best practices and information. So this is a plenary for intercommunal, intermunicipal, and also transnational European cooperation. There is a wealth of support on European, national, and subnational levels, competence centers, funding schemes, guidelines, and networks. So there is every reason to start digital transformation at your place in Europe and to excel. So please use the opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, Martin, for that intervention. Good job. Get it to work again? Yes, I think we're back on track. There we are. Is Maria in the meantime in? No, she's not yet in. That means we continue a little bit on the theme of the SMEs and the business side of the work that we are doing. And we have a representative from the digital Paolo Valente, who will speak to you on behalf of the organization. Paolo, pick up a microphone from the table there. Yeah, the one, or you can, or the one that's, yeah, whichever you like. Yeah, come on up.
So, is it working? Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Eddie, for the introduction. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. I'm representing Digital SME Alliance. My name is Paolo Valente. I'm today the chairman of the focus group on smart communities, which is a group that has been recently created to reinforce the work that has been delivered by the Living-in.EU initiative. It's something that the Digital SME Alliance, which is an association that represents around 45,000 SMEs across Europe, is very engaged on because the principles and the gaps that were identified are in line with what we have already figured out that needs some contributions. So we believe that it's important to bring solutions or at least some proposals to the table. That being said, we have been working with our members to identify use cases where we can contribute to it. One thing that is very important is that this focus group is open to the community, not only the SMEs that are working on the ICT sector, but also to the stakeholders that are important. That means the EU institutions that are also present, but also the ERSC and other entities that represent the ecosystem. So that is our objective, is to have everybody on board and build up on what is already being done at the EU level. One thing that we have just launched in this focus group, we also proposed a manifesto where we identified several principles that we want to follow. One of them is leveraging the local power of the community. We believe that the ICT SMEs that are present locally are closer to identify the solutions and work with the communities to find good ideas to deliver on the demand, on what is required to implement the digitalization, which is a big challenge. I've heard during our session that, in fact, the differences between the regions and the communities are very big. We cannot have a one-size-fits-all. It's impossible to have that. So the closer we work with the stakeholders, the better we can achieve these results. From my side, I represent one SME that is member of Digital SME Alliance, and it has always been our principle to work together with our potential clients, which are the cities, the communities, because we believe that they don't have all the required knowledge and competencies, because it's not their core business. We need to work with them to show how we can embrace some of these challenges. Another principle that this manifesto was very, we found it was important, was embedding these European values. And this goes in line with the Living-in.EU manifesto. It's something that goes really in line. One thing that is also being referred, and Hedy was saying that maybe it was not so sexy, but the interoperability is very useful. I work in technology and standards for quite some time, and whenever we don't see an interoperable system, the problems begin, because we don't allow competition to work properly. It's easy to say the lock-in, but in fact, the options for the future are completely reduced, and we need to allow this openness of the ecosystem. So, after that, we also found that there was one principle, which is the cross-border collaboration. That is very important for SMEs, because SMEs don't have all the resources that, let's say, larger organizations have. And the more we collaborate with each other, the more we can supply in a fruitful way the market, especially the stakeholders that want the solutions to solve the problem. Fostering these digital skills. This is a very important topic for us because, as it was already mentioned, there is a general reduced supply of skills, of people with the right skills to deliver on all the process of digitalization. I think it's across all the geographies that we are covering, but it's a problem that we need to solve it. It's not just because we recognize it that it will be solved by itself. So many initiatives. I heard the other initiative that was a kind of academy that is promoting the transformation, the conversion of certain people that were not so skillful on digital issues, and I think that is very important. Inside Digital SME Alliance, we are also very engaged on this. We also believe that promoting the fair competition and the access of SMEs to the procurement, it's essential. It's the more we create tools that allow a large and open access to the procurement that is being promoted is essential. By doing that, what we need, and again, it connects with the open standards, because that allows everybody to play with the same rules and to contribute in a fruitful way. And finally, something that we recognize as a principle that is very important is bridging the gap between the urban and the rural areas. The access to information that a city like Lisbon, we are in Portugal, has compared with certain cities, like for example Évora, are completely different. The companies are mostly based in Lisbon, they are not based in Alentejo the majority of the time. And that is a big gap that we need to try to find solutions that compensate them. And that's let's say the final principle that we are also very keen on this focus group, to identify how we can propose solutions that can be done. That being said, and as a final conclusion from Digital SME, I would like to thank this opportunity to share our ideas, but also to show our total availability to continue working on this dialogue that is very important. We, representing let's say the supply side, are very interested in contributing, not only finding off-the-shelf solutions. I think we have the flexibility, the SMEs have the flexibility to propose solutions that fit for purpose the clients, our clients, which are the cities, the communities, the regions, and we are very keen on working on that to find the best options. Okay, thank you.
Say, Paulo, this is an opportunity also to converse with Paulo, ask him questions if you have any. Martin, you need to come up again, take this mic.
Thank you, Paulo. So also just to confirm up here that I think smaller companies, smaller communities, and their networks really need to go together also towards, the regulators. But I think also, the bigger cities, the bigger companies, because there's so much that we need to align on So I think really, actually, my main point would be, my main recommendation would be in line with yours. We need to use the networks and the associations. So this is all just to confirm that we're working so closely together and with the networks of regions. So the task group that you have on smart communities, I mean, we are engaging in that conversation directly. So I think that is actually the action point for us here. Also, Eddie, you know, the movement to have both sides of the market in there and the associations representing them. So European Digital SME Alliance, I think, is a key one there. That was not a question, but you feel free to respond.
It wasn't a question, but it was a sort of a word of encouragement, Paolo.
Which I accept with great pleasure. I think it's a recognition that we are contributing with something that is positive, that we want to bring better results, not just complain that sometimes there are difficulties. We want to bring solutions to the table. Yeah, that's our objective.
Co-create with your clients and stakeholders. Excellent. Anyone else? Marcos.
This is not a question, it's a little bit of semantic game, but you are on the supply side and you are our partners and we are very proud of you. So what I'm saying is not negative, it's positive. But you are on the supply side of digital innovation, digital service, digital enablers. Some other people is on the demand side, and finally we see that everyone is on the demand side. So when it comes to the policies that we have to develop at the regional level, we have to do both. We have to create conditions for the suppliers to feel good coming to the region, which is a sort of challenge, and at the same time we have to develop the policies that make it right to be enabled by digital. So in every sector, mobility, that's the reason why we invited EIT Mobility Kick, because that's a sector we are very keen on. On health, there are amazing projects, but huge challenges on, and that's not digital sector, it's digitally enabled. That's digitally based innovation. And I'm always a bit of struggling with this semantic problem, because we say, okay, we have to do more digital, but one thing is digital, other thing is digitally based. Two different policies. And when it comes to the policies that are benefiting from innovation, technology, but not only technology, and using more digital, they are creating a market for the digital suppliers. That's where this ecosystem starts, and that it comes all the story of co-development and so. The point I'm trying to make is that we have to try not to sterilize the policies to make only better for the digital companies to come to the regions, but at the same time, by innovating in the public services that are critical to structure society, but also innovating on market, but let's keep with public service. When we innovate in public services, we keep an eye on that policy of creating a market, local market, that make it easier for the digital companies to come. So that's a dialogue between the digitally based innovation and the digital innovation. And sometimes it's difficult to find the borders or to make it work together or to be part of the same ecosystem. That's something we think about within Aurora, because indeed that's a problem we face in our pilot regions. So I came here just to do this little semantic differentiation between the digitally based and the digital. An example is attracting creators, cultural sector. We had a session on cultural sector. The region, Alentejo, and I think my vice president allows me to comment on this, but the region is very rich indeed, but also very keen on keeping developing on the cultural sector. So our creators are welcome, and we have policies to attract those creators to come even individually here. They use the digital and they create the environment that makes it easier for digital suppliers to come. But that's a sort of permanent dialogue between the several sectors and policy sectors around that at first sight have nothing to do with digital, but at the same time to check on how is it doing for favoring the digital companies to install and to have this added value for the regions. That's why we like your focus group, because that's part of your job. You try to do it. And that's why Digital SME is such an important organization. That's also why perhaps we discuss so much co-development within Living-in.EU and so. And that's why sometimes the life of the ones that govern the regions is not so easy, because these things have to match together. And the idea of ecosystem, and that's indeed a key word also. Okay, it was more like a little game of words. Sorry, I talked too much.
No.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcos. Now, just a quick comment on what you said. We believe, at least when we were discussing the focus group, that technology per se is not a solution. It needs to fit the purpose of what is the demand, what is the need that is at stake, that we need to supply. I think no SME must be very happy if their technology is not even used. So if they sell it, but then it's not used, okay, it's mixed feelings. They are happy because they did business, but in the end, if it's not providing the solution that was foreseen, it's no problem. So we want to work with the let's say the client side, the demand side, to understand what are the needs and then provide something that really solves a problem, that really addresses the challenge of supplying a solution for citizens where things work together. Otherwise, there is no use on that. We might have an immediate, instantaneous happiness, but then it's gone. So I agree with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Paolo. Give him a big hand. Thank you. Is Maria in? No, Maria still. We were supposed to get a video connection from Barcelona on the other side of the island. But anyway, they're not there. Maybe what we do then is we move on to a sort of a closing speech already from the Secretary of State, from Isabella Ferreira, from the Ministry of Territorial Cohesion. The Ministry of Territorial Cohesion, that's correct, no? Yes. I hope you have the video. And if Maria is still there, we'll take her afterwards, and otherwise we'll just wrap up a little bit earlier, which is not a bad thing to do.
É com imenso gosto que participo na segunda edição da Cimeira Regiões Europeias para Comunidades Inteligentes, que se segue à primeira edição, realizada ainda durante o período da presidência portuguesa em 2021, mas sobretudo por ser aqui, nesta bonita histórica cidade de Évora, um território de uma região europeia, portuguesa, território do interior e transfronteiriça, que serviu de palco ao lançamento e agora faz o acolhimento desta cimeira, e eu também tive o prazer de estar aí convosco presencialmente na abertura, e que tem como missão promover uma visão comum de cooperação, excelência, interoperabilidade e inovação orgânica, respondendo aos desafios de ter sucesso na transformação digital. Agradeço por isso a oportunidade e o convite para me associar a vocês na abertura desta sessão temática e gostaria de expressar as maiores felicitações à organização, ao projeto Auroral, liderado pela Comissão de Coordenação e Desenvolvimento Regional do Alentejo, e aproveito para cumprimentar a Presidência e todos os envolvidos neste projeto, que conta também com o apoio da Alentejo Europe Initiative, da European Committee of the Regions, Living-in European Union, Reg Hub, European Digital Smart Medium Enterprise Alliance, and Regier, Science for Evolution, e portanto com todos estes parceiros honra-me muito a vossa capacidade de organização e mobilização para este evento que mostra o quanto o Alentejo e o nosso país dão à Europa. Quero também cumprimentar e dar as boas-vindas sinceras a todos os participantes e prestar homenagem às personalidades de todos os círculos que se têm dedicado à cooperação entre as regiões europeias e entre as comunidades inteligentes ao longo dos tempos. Esta cimeira celebra o sucesso e as conquistas da cooperação entre as comunidades inteligentes, representando também uma oportunidade de compromisso mútuo para partilhar desafios e soluções inteligentes. Promove a reunião de líderes locais e regionais de toda a Europa para discutir como envolver os cidadãos e as partes interessadas na co-promoção de pequenas cidades, vilas, aldeias e regiões mais inteligentes para um amanhã melhor, bem como orador-chave de instituições europeias. Este evento, através de sessões, fóruns, diálogos, workshops, laboratórios, momentos culturais e atividades destinadas, vai aprimorar o papel dos polos regionais e urbanos, das comunidades inteligentes na realização da transformação digital verde, azul e brilhante. Desafios que a Europa e Portugal assumem como ponto-chave para o desenvolvimento regional, nacional e naturalmente da Europa no seu conjunto. E é facto que a União Europeia e Portugal estabeleceram uma agenda muito ambiciosa para a dupla transição verde e digital. A década digital, a agenda de competências, a Universidade dos Direitos Digitais, a Lei dos Serviços Digitais, a consolidação dos ativos competitivos europeus para uma maior autonomia industrial, o papel da educação na consecução de todos os objetivos de desenvolvimento sustentável e a inspiração da Bauhaus apontando para um papel mais forte da cultura, do design e da criatividade, bem como de uma conectividade digital segura e inovadora e o acesso à internet e aos meios de comunicação social, são instrumentos importantes para concretizar estas ambições. O papel dos hubs regionais, das smart communities, é mais importante do que nunca para ter um sucesso na transformação digital. É por isso que este evento é um momento fundamental para melhorar a cooperação entre os polos regionais das comunidades inteligentes. Por outro lado, os tempos têm demonstrado a importância de se olhar para os territórios e para os seus recursos endógenos numa perspectiva inteligente smart, desde o património histórico, cultural até ao natural, como sejam os recursos endógenos geológicos, hídricos, florestais, ambientais e paisagísticos de grande valor. E para, a partir destas fontes locais, se criarem novas e inteligentes dinâmicas que promovam a competitividade e bem-estar para as populações atuais e futuras. Os paradigmas mais recentes do desenvolvimento regional têm vindo a valorizar o papel do espaço e dos recursos endógenos do território, que surgem como motores de desenvolvimento das regiões, onde os atores, tanto nacionais como, sobretudo, os regionais e locais, desempenham um papel essencial e são chamados a identificar novas formas de organização, da produção e de relacionamento. Através da frase de Henry Ford, reunir-se é um começo, permanecer juntos é um progresso e trabalhar juntos é um sucesso. E por isso podemos perceber o quão importantes são as comunidades e a união de esforços para que a ideia, novos projetos surjam, cresçam e tragam prosperidade para as pessoas e para os territórios. No paradigma do desenvolvimento regional endógeno, o território surge como uma estratégia mais atrativa e interativa, mais ativa, como agente de desenvolvimento integrado que valoriza os recursos locais e engloba os aspectos sociais, culturais, técnicos e económicos, bem como, obviamente, a participação ativa de toda a população. Claro que estas estratégias de produção, de promoção e valorização do capital endógeno têm, como em qualquer outra área setorial, de ter uma fundamentação científica e tecnológica relevante. De facto, tem de ser unanimemente reconhecido que a concretização de qualquer estratégia de valorização só é possível quando suportada pelos contributos da ciência e da evolução do conhecimento e da tecnologia, que são fatores essenciais para a definição de novos focos de investigação, desenvolvimento e qualificação, criando igualmente eixos de inovação e dinamização económica, como a criação de produtos e serviços inovadores e competitivos à escala global. A inovação e a digitalização são dimensões fundamentais das nossas agendas regionais, não apenas por se tratarem de diretivas europeias, mas especialmente porque o território e os seus agentes compreendem a urgência destes objetivos. A pandemia veio acelerar as tendências de inovação e digitalização e fez com que o que parecia inatingível ou muito demorado, como a utilização alargada dos meios digitais ou os processos de desmaterialização, fosse implementado em apenas alguns meses, e isto foi um verdadeiro salto geracional. É certo que este não foi um processo igual para todos, infelizmente, que uns foram mais rápidos que outros, porque já tinham maior capacidade instalada. Mas para grande parte dos nossos territórios a oportunidade foi semelhante, a oportunidade de serem smart. E assim o termo smart é sinónimo também de próximo, personalizado e amigo das pessoas. Nós temos defendido este conceito. Assim, o nosso papel é agora levar estas vantagens a todo o território e a todas as pessoas. E para lograrmos é necessário alterar o modo como olhamos para estes produtos e serviços inteligentes e tecnológicos, mas simultaneamente precisamos também de melhorar o modo como os territórios se adaptam a esta nova realidade. Temos em conjunto atores europeus, nacionais, regionais, locais, fazer com que o smart se torne também um sinónimo de democrático, de universal, para todos, independentemente da idade, das qualificações ou do sítio onde vivem. Queremos que todos os nossos territórios estejam a um clique de distância e esse é um dos nossos maiores propósitos. Será através da tecnologia, da conectividade digital, que conseguiremos quebrar barreiras e ultrapassar obstáculos e permitir que os trabalhadores, as empresas e os territórios tenham as mesmas ferramentas para criar valor e novas oportunidades. Só assim será possível mudar para melhor o nosso mercado de trabalho, a forma como atraímos investimento para o território, as qualificações e a especialização dos nossos trabalhadores, o modo como reduzimos os custos da tecnologia e da inovação nas empresas, a forma como ajudamos estes negócios a adaptarem-se aos consumidores, tendo em conta as necessidades e prioridades do consumo do futuro. Esta foi uma nova porta que abrimos com desafios que são uma prioridade para a coesão territorial, para o desenvolvimento regional, nomeadamente a cobertura de redes de comunicações eletrónicas de muito elevada capacidade. A conectividade digital tem de ser uma realidade para todos. Temos de assegurar cobertura universal e de qualidade a todos os agregados familiares e também à indústria e aos serviços, e este é um grande desafio da Europa, de Portugal, em particular do nosso Ministério, que está a trabalhar para, através do Portugal 2030, levar banda larga a todo o território, especialmente aos territórios de baixa densidade, mais distantes dos centros urbanos, e onde a necessidade de serviços de proximidade é maior. E onde também a oportunidade para atrair os nómadas digitais, por exemplo, também é enorme. Temos também o desafio das competências digitais. Não adianta que a internet chegue a todos, se nem todos conseguem chegar. Temos de apoiar as pessoas para que possam tirar partido destas tecnologias. Os mais jovens têm de aproveitar as novas oportunidades dos meios digitais nos seus territórios para conseguirem trabalhar, viver e criar família, sem terem que sair dos locais onde nasceram e cresceram. Outro desafio é a criação de novos empregos digitais. Temos de atrair um talento digital. Só se nos colocarmos o quanto antes na linha da frente desta corrida, conseguiremos ser os primeiros e os melhores na atração de novas pessoas, novos trabalhadores, novas famílias para territórios, sobretudo os do interior. E temos vindo a trabalhar juntamente com as Comissões de Coordenação e Desenvolvimento Regionais para este desafio. é fundamental também adaptar e reformular os modelos de produção e logística e, em simultâneo, mostrar a todos os padrões que cumprimos em Portugal e na União Europeia para atrairmos os melhores e mais avançados negócios que contribuam de forma mais positiva para as nossas cadeias de valor. Finalmente, é necessário um investimento robusto e contínuo no desenvolvimento dos novos conteúdos digitais e nas novas bases de dados que têm de funcionar de forma aberta e transparente, respeitando as últimas diretivas europeias. Este é o caminho que temos vindo a trilhar no Governo, alinhados com os desafios e os objetivos europeus. Recorrendo aos fundos europeus dos programas regionais, também desenhamos medidas específicas, especialmente pensadas para o interior, para apoiar o investimento inovador nas empresas, para promover parcerias entre empresas, universidades, politécnicos, centros de conhecimento, para incentivar a contratação de recursos humanos mais qualificados, para criar e melhorar áreas de envolvimento empresarial e infraestruturas e equipamentos de entidades científicas, para apoiar a mobilidade de trabalhadores e famílias que queiram mudar-se para o interior e criarmos a nova rede de espaços de coworking e teletrabalho no interior, que conta já com 89 espaços de norte a sul do país. E para dar continuidade a este trabalho, usamos e iremos usar também fundos europeus do PT 2030, do Plano de Recuperação e Resiliência, para investir nas redes de comunicações eletrónicas de elevada capacidade, nas regiões de baixa densidade, como já disse, mas iremos continuar a implementar o plano de ação do Governo para a transição digital, com 3 pilares muito claros: a capacitação e a inclusão digital, a transformação do tecido empresarial e a digitalização do Estado e dos seus serviços. A nossa política de coesão territorial está comprometida com a promoção de um desenvolvimento harmonioso todo o conjunto do território nacional e, em especial, visa contribuir para reduzir a disparidade entre os níveis de desenvolvimento das diversas regiões, em particular das regiões mais desfavorecidas, num contexto de promoção de transições ecológicas e digitais, com forte incidência territorial e de superação dos impactos da pandemia e da crise económica nos territórios mais afetados, em particular, como eu dizia, nos mais desfavorecidos. Assim, a realização de eventos como estes, que pretende promover uma visão comum de cooperação, excelência, interoperabilidade e inovação orgânica, respondendo aos desafios de ter sucesso na transformação digital, provam que continuamos a trabalhar unidos para as pessoas e com as pessoas, enquanto atores principais do território e agentes do desenvolvimento integrado, na construção de um Portugal mais próspero, com um tecido social mais coeso, um país mais competitivo, mais resiliente, verde, digital, mais sustentável, mais solidário, mais inovador, mas, sobretudo, com todas as suas regiões a convergirem para a União Europeia. Muito obrigada.
I'm coming here just to apologize the fact that the speech wasn't translated. It was planned to have the Secretary of State coming in person today. We got the speech yesterday evening. We had no technical way of making translation and subtitles, but we understand that the members of government have other things to do, because the Secretary of State was here in the opening, so she couldn't make it again to be here today because of Living-in.EU session. That was the idea. This was the keynote speech that was asked, because indeed the Secretary of State marked all the key points of the Portuguese policy for the digital transformation. And the good news is that the Secretary of State, Isabel Ferreira, is not the Secretary of State for digital transformation. She is part of the Ministry of Territorial Cohesion. So this is clearly a statement of of how important we see that digital is an instrument for the transformation of the territories and not a sector that is isolated from others. That's absolutely impossible to translate everything, but I will pick just some keywords. That's important that the Secretary of State said that if the digital transformation is to be a success, it has to be universal, it has to be comprehensive, and it has to be effective. Universal because it has to work for all regions, everyone, all companies, all sectors. That's an important message. And another point is that it has to be comprehensive. So we are not transforming because of the digital sector, but there is a policy and a will and a need, may I say, of transformation that becomes the digital to be part of that will. So that's comprehensive in the sense that we want to modernize, transforming with digital, not for digital and not only by digital. So that's integrated transformation. And another important message, but I think that is the commitment with the alignment and the support to the European initiatives that may be in line with its perspective. But I think the Commission is serious when it says that nobody should be left behind. This means that no regions can be left behind, and that no sectors, and that cohesion is part of digital transformation. And indeed, the Secretary of State is from the Minister of Cohesion, Territorial Cohesion, so that's the proof that cohesion is totally centric for the digital transformation. So we will provide the video with subtitles on the digital legacy of the event. I'm so sorry. That's totally understandable that members of government use the official language in the EU, that's Portuguese. But nevertheless, it was our obligation to be able to subtitle it. You are going to have it subtitled, but it was totally impossible to do it for today. So thank you, but those were the key ideas, and I'm very, very happy with the speech of Mrs. the Secretary of State.
Thank you very much. That was very useful. I will do the wrap-up now, and they'll be very short. I mean, there's no need to do wrap-up. You have taken from this what you have taken from this, and the word that I would, it's actually an official policy of the European Union, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's called together.eu, sort of thing, and it used to have all these colors and that sort of thing. But what struck me most is that speakers from the Commission, myself, Olavi, speakers from projects, yourself, speakers from the national government, the regional government, the local governments, from representatives from industry, various you have them. You have that strong feeling that they're in this together. And one of the things that it's years ago when one of my superiors created the so-called stakeholders unit. You had to do more with stakeholders and stuff. And then we had a whole policy around all that. And then I asked a colleague, I said, but whose stakeholder are we? And his colleague looked at me, and like, well, what do you mean, whose stakeholder are we? Yeah, I said, but the world does not revolve around the European Commission with its stakeholders. And that is, I think, the point that we have. It's together. We always reason from ourselves, because you can't, you can't pretend you're me, and I can't pretend that I'm you. You reason from yourself, but it's with that togetherness that you reach out to each other, so you reach each other's stakeholder. I think the focus group is a good example that was mentioned, where you open it up and then you co-create together. That is also what we have tried to do with the Living-in.EU movement, to really co-create that together, not as an EU policy or an organization policy. And what you would hope is that all 420 million European citizens within the end take the ownership of it. I hope that you will, and we will close later now with a small panel of reflections from yourself. But I will close with what I like most. I think the State Secretary also mentioned the citizens. You know, course, I help draft a number of these documents and the declaration. I try to, bring the whole movement forward. But there's one thing that sort of in a brainwave came to me that I was allowed to put in my partners, and that is what I call citizens' part. So politicians can sign declarations, and we can do all our work. And we have also a little box on that website, and we also have supporters of the movement, apart from the signatory. But we also have a citizens' line. So if there's anything that you do before the dinner this evening and after this event is closed, you go on the website, and as a citizen, if you have found any comfort in what you've done in these couple of days, you can give it a citizen's line. The good thing was I posted this on LinkedIn and we were at 49,000 likes. And I said, oh, I'm going to do a campaign, and I posted, I think we're now towards the 51,000. So what you do has an effect, certainly then if you also announce it to your friends that you just said, I gave my citizens line. Because the whole idea is to do this together as an organization with your contribution, our contribution, they're all different types of contribution, but we're in this together, the same words of interoperability, different ways of working. You hear it from Baton, you hear it from Sejek, Carmen mentioned it, you mentioned it. It's that togetherness that will constitute us as a European Union entity, that I hope that the presence here in Alentejo will help you to also take away that issue and bring forward what we need to do in constructing the European Union. Thank you very much for your attention. I pass over to Marcos, who will then
Celine, it is for you now. Okay, so this is a little bit of a surprise wrap-up that we prepared for Living-in.EU session with our partners and with the presentation that Celine prepared about what we are doing under our investment platform. Why so? That's pointless to innovate if we don't invest. We can co-innovate, yeah, but we need to co-invest. We may need wonderful innovation actions, but we can keep it as a legacy of paper. We have really to find a way of co-investing together. So that's why, and I think it was welcomed by the Commission and the reviewers, that's why within Aurora we have a transversal activity that's a platform, an investment platform. We are a little bit playing with words because the European Investment Bank also uses the word investment platform to mean that we put together small projects into an operation. Okay, we kept the words operation, we put small projects together because every small community has their own projects, they come together, we do the investment platform. We have already some small successes on that. So we started, and there are some spin-offs, part of the investment platform. Celine prepared a small presentation about it, and we invited our dear partners that are involved on that cross-regions contributions and developments to be here with us, just to testify that sometimes when we do those things like Living-in.EU, it works. Anyway, making the transition from one section of the session to another one, there are just two small comments. I will be a bit undiplomatic now, don't take it badly, but there are two things we have to achieve with Living-in.EU. One is, of course, to work better at the regional level. We saw finally that we invited our fellow regions to be with us, the other regions that are signing and they were not perhaps mobilized. So we have to do more. We really have to have a regional pillar in Living-in.EU, because the small communities are together in these regional hubs. That's easy to see that we needed to scale up, and regions may cooperate together to synchronize programs, because when it comes to investment, part of those programs are regionally based. So without it, we miss the leverage. So that's one point. We have been talking about it for 1 year, so nothing is new. I'm just sharing it with partners. So we need that regional pillar. And the other thing we need, it's really a request. That is really something that we have to achieve. We have Norwegian partners, our dear Norwegian partners. They are extremely important in what we are doing, but the Norwegian cities, towns, and regions can't be part of Living-in.EU. And that's, for me, it's really, okay, that's a miss. We are missing a lot by not having them. We have to solve it, regardless how. We have to be creative. So that's a little bit of a request. And when we say the Norwegian partners, I also do say the Ukrainian partners. Ukraine is an amazing country, regardless the current situation or the current challenge or the war that Ukraine is facing and all of us. If we put ourselves in February 23rd, one day before the invasion, I think that Ukraine was totally prepared to be part of the Union, but at least the technology hub, the digital innovation sector, all those startups they have would be wonderful partners to be part of this community. So please do whatever is in your reach to open Living-in.EU to Ukrainian partners, to open it to Norwegian partners, and indeed to make it fair to keep contributing. That's an important point, together with the regional pillar. So, but that's just a comment on Living-in.EU. You know it, it's just to share it with partners. Now we are going to have this small final presentation from Celine Sauer about what we are doing in the investment platform. And to end, if you are kind enough just to share some words, feel free. And then we go having a drink in a wonderful place in the old part of the building. That's a terrace near the church where we can see the landscape a little bit. You are welcome to have a glass of wine there. And then at 7 o'clock we have the banquet, so the final dinner, and where we can be all together to enjoy dinner in these wonderful premises. And for the ones that keep having energy, there is a concert in Ever that we are invited to, but at least 7 o'clock come to the dinner. So now let's go back to the serious business and selling, please.
Okay, so hello, welcome. And first of all, thank you very much that you're still here. It's very late in the day, and I know that you saved some energy now, hopefully, to be able to listen to those last words I have to share. So thank you very much. And also thank you very much to the partners to support me here in the front. Let me just say a quick remark first, because we said many times now that we are very happy to be here in person finally, to meet each other, to be here. And I had the feeling that the last days I got to know why it's so crucial now to be here in person together, because we could finally connect to each other and we could exchange and we could talk about where we come from, what backgrounds we have, what challenges we face there. And we talk about some of our partners come from regions where there was still skiing, and here we were still at the beach before we went here. So there were so different places we come from. But then we start talking and connecting to each other, and we realize actually we have so much in common still. There's so many challenges in common, but also we have a very similar idea of how to solve them. So we also share these ideas of solutions, and then we start to build collaborations and to work together because we want to achieve the same thing and we want to work together. And why do I say this now? Because that's exactly what I want to talk about now with this short presentation. And we hear a lot of times today and the days before about the smart tomorrow, a smarter, better tomorrow. We have an operation, the Smart Tomorrow Investment Platform. But first there comes the vision of a smarter tomorrow. And if we want to follow that vision together, we have to come together. So we have to work the room and the opportunity to come together. And this is now the Smart Tomorrow room I want to talk about because this comes first. And we are coming together not because we have to or not, it's not binding that we have to come together, but it just happens naturally because we have the same ideas, we have the same vision we want to follow. So we just come together and we want to work together. And we also agree on this cooperation because we want to foster and establish the smart communities we're aiming to realize in the end. And as Marcus said before, in the end, we do this amazing innovation, and especially in this project, we have so good tools and so good resources. But in the end, we have to make it reality. We have to implement it. So in the end, it's also an instrument, a common instrument for joint investment. And what would happen if we come together? We closely collaborate, so we closely work together to make it happen and to realize the smart communities like we think they should be, because we actually know how they should be, because we come from different perspectives and we talk with very different people who are involved. We talk with the communities, we talk with all the stakeholders. So we will mainstream and fix the idea of smart communities in a way that it's an idea to help all the people, to take care of them, to take care of the nature, to foster this idea, to make it happen, to have a better tomorrow, actually. And we established together, and we commonly did in this example of our project, we have the Untitled Protocol, emerging also from the last ERSC Summit, and it's a very good development here. It's getting very good, very stable. And we also have a definition what we think is a smart community, because we talk with those people, we talk with the community. And we also agree that we want to follow all the things we establish, all the tools we have, like the Smart Tomorrow Investment Platform and the Smart Tomorrow brand under our project. So we agree that this is the way to go. And now maybe some nice words about a smart tomorrow and where we want to go. How can we picture it? What is this vision? You can picture it in 3 layers. So you have a very bottom layer, which is infrastructure. We will have another middle layer, which is the resources we need. And we have a top layer, which is the skills. But starting with the base, we're always in the base. So infrastructure, I think we agree on that this is vital, we need that because we need the access to internet connection, broadband internet, when we talk about digitalization. And I'm afraid to say that many communities do not have that. So how could they be digitalized? So they need the interconnectivity and they need to be part of it, they need to be enabled by it. But we also need to know that we have very diverse and different environments. So we have very high dense areas where one concept might work perfectly, or one infrastructure might already be there. But then we have low dense areas where it's sad to say, but there's nothing yet. So we need to take into account that we have very diverse environments, and we have to find solutions for each of them. And this is a barrier, this is an obstacle, but we'll already have a solution for it, or we have different solutions for it. And one example, what would be a good idea, what could be in practice be done, is we have programs who have the Connecting Europe facility digital to implement infrastructure. And there is the idea to go rural, to make it rural, to enable 5G in rural areas as an investment action, as in to implement it, and having it open, neutral, enhanced interconnectivity. So I think about now the Aurora middleware because it's also an open approach, an interoperable approach for more to come, for more to share and to use it. So also this approach here exists, to have an infrastructure which is open for more to use and to come neutral. So going to the second layer, the middle layer, which is resources. Resources are very vital, very much needed because we start off with infrastructure, but how do we continue? So we need resources because those are the requirements we need to use to achieve our smart communities. And we have a lot of great resources. We are establishing them right now. We have, for example, our middleware, we have the IoT, we have big data, we have artificial intelligence, we have many crucial things what smart communities need. And also as an example, we will have the IoT week in June, and Aurora will also be part of it. So it's happening. We are taking part of it, and this path, we are walking on this path. And finally, now we have infrastructure, we have resources, but it's there now. We need also to know how to use it to make it happen in the end. So we need to be able to have the skills to use it, we have to have the know-how, what to do with our resources. We need to be upskilled or reskilled, and that's what we have to do within the communities, because in the end, the communities are the ones who will be digitalized, who should be smart communities. And there is another spin-off, like the infrastructure spin-off we had before. There's a spin-off with a great project which is happening. It's called Digital Go, and it's very much about skills. Digital skills, enabling digital skills, but not the way we might talk about it most of the time, but in that case, we talk about the elderly generation, so we want to enable them, we want to include them, give them basic digital skills, and at the same time, we want to collect cultural heritage. So we want to know what they tell us, what do they know, because they know it, but it will not last forever. So we want to make it last, and we want to collect it. We want to enable them to participate in this digital transition, because they are part of it and have to feel it. And we integrate them, and this is the way we, for example, think the skills are very much needed and used. And now, what is happening now? So we heard that it's a good idea to come together, and we actually do it already, and we do it now. So we came together, we exchange, we collaborate, we connect, but we want to do it not just for the project, and it will end at some point, so we want to do it even longer and even broader. So we are welcoming everyone who shares this vision and shares these ideas to cooperate and moving to this co-investment for smart communities to make it happen. But also we need support, we need programs supporting it, we need a framework supporting smart communities development and also addressing them and communicating with them, talking about them to make it happen. And thank you now for listening to me, because my part is over. But now I would like to open the floor, because that's what I just talked about. We need to come together, we need to exchange, to listen to each other. So we're coming together now, and I would kindly ask Marcus to introduce our speakers.
So I don't have to
It's our partners. So this is, we couldn't be, in total the project is 100 people working together, 25 partners. We couldn't be all together here, so we try to have a panel of people who has been involved in concrete examples of this partnership, transfer, and cooperation that Celine described. That's indeed important to keep that idea of the 3 layers. That's the way we are organizing the investment platform. So the investment on infrastructure, that's indispensable. IoT aspects and resources, that's the middle layer. And the top layer for skills, so doing the smart learning communities and all those aspects of transforming memory into digital legacy and so on. So that's just a final comment that I can't ask you to do before thanking so much to Eddie Artok and Olavi Lotaman here, thanking to the Commission. It's not exactly as the Commission because it's a movement, it may be long quote. Yeah, but you had idea and you took the initiative. But thanking to Living-in.EU to bring this dialogue with the regions here. Hopefully we can do it in other regions. We will go there. We will be enjoying that opportunity of cooperating. Okay, and now we have to close the day. So to have a little bit of replica from our own partners about all these things that we were discussing today. So please just make a comment, take a little time, and we close the session. Okay, I don't know who is willing to start, but
as the most truck company out of Germany, we have been cooperating with the European projects very long time since we established the EEA agreement, European Economic Area. A lot of the Portugal was an EFTA member at that time. And so we are not a member, but we have this EEA grants, special call now for Portugal. So I think we should see all these program investments which can support the skills, the structures, and technology we want to provide through the agricultural movement, actually. So we are involved in several proposals, even more than the projects that we should have like a core designation related to being the agricultural concept in all our proposals. And I also would thank Ulrich for saying what we write in the contract about the testing is not what you expect from us now. I think that's very important because we see that the challenges are another what we thought about 2 years ago. So thank you. We will be trustful with the English.
So my name is Stefan Banya. I'm from company Bavarier from Slovak Republic. We are responsible for interoperability platforms there. First of all, I'd like to thank to CCDR, personally to Marcos for the organization of this event and to the opportunity to say a few words here. And also, I was very amazed by the presentation of Celine about this investment platform. It's absolutely brilliant thing. It's a very good tool in order to make the project survive the funding, I would say. So once the funding is finished, we might have something that survives the project. And in order to do this happen, I think that right now our next step might be to build some interesting success stories on top of that platform. And as a partner in the Aurora project, I'm looking forward to work with that. Thank you.
I would like to, I will not repeat myself regarding what I just mentioned, but I just wanted to give a word of incentive and hope that what the industry has been doing by participating on this debate, it's very important. What we can conclude is that both the demand side from the regions is very welcome. The contribution, but also the policymakers are willing to receive our inputs. And so the word of incentive is for the SMEs in Europe that feel that they have something to say, that they should participate, they should engage on this dialogue. And the results will definitely occur based on that. So we are willing to do that. Digital SME Alliance is also very engaged on this dialogue. And thank you again for organizing this event, which was a very good reflection moment for everybody. And the results are very good.
Hello, also from my side. I'm Nicole Belkova from LuxActive. I would like to provide a comment from different point of view because we are actually a provider of digital solutions with our digital platform OHA and the web app platform, and the web app OHA. And therefore Celine was mentioning about the investment platform and the challenges that are currently on the market and in the rural areas. Yet we are also daily we are meeting them daily also when we provide our digital solutions and services, and therefore we really think that's essential what is represented. And also it enables us to spread our digital services and solutions, and together we can really digitalize the rural area and work for a smart tomorrow. Thank you.
I can use this. I'm Nicola Bekkenstam from Smart Innovation Norway, and I work as the program manager for the Smart Communities program that we have in Narvik municipality in northern Norway. So thanks for getting me a chance to share a few words here and being part of this very exciting project. We originally signed up for having a pilot just working on smart mobility and smart tourism, but the project has developed as already asked for. The concepts of the Smart Tomorrow investment platform and the smart communities concept development is really important and really interesting for us, because I think there's a real risk for the project for the municipality to be really distant from what the municipality does, and also like the whole smart communities program that we have. It's pretty distant from what the community really does and what the municipality does. So I think this platform development and the development of the smart communities definition and concept is moving both the project and our work on smart communities in Narvik closer to what the society is occupied with and what the municipality is occupied with. So it's really evolving in a really interesting way. We're really happy of being part of the project and looking forward to the way to work, future work in the project.
Okay, so I think we came to the end of the session. Your talk was kind enough to allow me to close, but that's nothing more to say. It's just to thank you so much to be sharing these moments with us, to all the reflections that we could have on those small moments that we were around the premises sharing. So I hope you also enjoyed the city in Evra yesterday and the day before. Today I hope we are going to enjoy the landscape and the dinner. So
let's really do big things together. That's using Selim's words. We have to make it stronger together. That's the European motto. That's why we are here. That's what we believe in, and indeed we are committed to that. So never hesitate to come to our support, to ask for our support, and to indeed to keep this moment of this positive energy. We are still having with us, with quite tolerance from our Vice President, because you may have other things to take care of everywhere. But I don't know, Carmen, if you want just to close, because you are the political official representing the region, so please, but okay.
Just to say thank you so much for you all to be here, for the work that we are doing together. Our week is finishing. Tomorrow is more or less the last day, and each day I'm sure that we are doing a good work and we are going to big results. I think it can be also the start for new projects, for several new projects in the future, and I'm sure we will be together for a long time in the future. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your intention. Thank you.